That sounds deep-seated.
Oh, it's in there. It's in there real good. On our demi-centennial episode?
I guess that's a word.
Is it? What's half of 100 is 50.
Yeah.
I guess people make a big deal of it, but it's not really a full year. So welcome to episode 50, our demi-centennial.
Yeah, we did this for 50 times somehow.
Wherein I try to not cough directly into the microphone, but man, do I feel better than last week, JJ.
Well, you sound better than last week, too, so it's just better all around.
This microphone makes me sound good no matter how bad I am.
Oh, you always sound good no matter how bad you are. Wait.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that cold got me real good. I have to tell you, I was at one point lost my voice so bad that I was singing Louis Armstrong songs, and I was on key.
No. Whoa, that's... Wow, that's really off register for you. No offense. But like, man.
Oh, dude. I've been out of town, which is part of the reason that last week sounded so weird. And I've been working a lot, and I haven't done too much in the gaming sphere this past week. I have actually gotten to open my packs and try out a deck that I really wanted to make. But what have you been up to, JJ? I've been working. That's kind of all I got time for.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the work continues over here, but also I have been playing a lot of Persona 5, which is a great game, if very Japanese in every possible sense of that word. And I've been playing a little bit of Bayonetta Remastered, which was released on Steam too. And that game is also great, but in a completely different and opposite way.
Did you like that last episode we picked 3 games, and all 3 games within a day of recording had news?
It's like... I don't know how we possibly did that, but it's amazing. Like old games that I was just thinking about, somehow magically someone knew that I was thinking about them, was like, here you go. They're updated in a modern format.
What really blew my mind was the Parappa the Rappa one, because like no one had heard of that game in 10 years.
Yeah, man.
And all of a sudden they're like, hey, remake.
I mean, great. It's the same game again, but like awesome. Yeah.
Well, we shouldn't hold him on the line too much longer. I think we learned our lesson with Ken, where he sat there staring at me longingly, wishing he could talk. We have a special guest on today. It's because, it's our 50th episode, and I feel like we don't have enough guests on this show. So 50 guests, etc. And I haven't been playing enough Hearthstone to really feel like I could engage in a deep discussion about where the game's headed after this latest expansion. So we brought on friend of the pod, Mr. Ryan, who, unlike our 2 plebeian hosts, has actually hit legend in that game. So take it away, Ryan. Tell us a little bit about your history with the game.
Hello. First off, I want to say, while you may not have hit legend in the game, you are all legends in my heart.
This guy right here.
Man.
Friend of the show status, this guy.
I also want to say that I'm a longtime fan of the show. I listened to the last episode, and it felt like it went on for a long time.
That's appropriate.
Oh, so you're a long-time fan. I get it. Okay.
Yeah, I had a list I prepared here, so be prepared throughout it.
Oh, so you have a
wonderful.
list of jokes? You're the joke guy?
Heavy brainstorming went on.
Oh, boy.
I want to point out that preparation and like thought beforehand is not something that generally happens on this podcast, so you're already ahead of the game.
It's also tantamount to getting kicked off the podcast.
Well, it was nice talking to you guys.
Oh, man. That's too funny, man. That was a short episode.
Okay, well,
whatever I can do to bring the run times down.
Right on. Well, before we get into Hearthstone, Ryan, you and I play a ton of Blizzard games together. You're one of our BlizzCon pals. And I don't think JJ's had the opportunity yet, at least I'm guessing he hasn't, to try out the new Overwatch mode.
It is super installed, but no, I have not played it.
We played it the other night, and I have to say, I think I've said this on the show in the past. They need to do more of this. I don't know. Is that your opinion, Ryan?
Yeah, it's incredible how much fun it was. I mean, the game is fun in general, but just the story behind it in the way they did it, keeping it in the Overwatch format, but exploring the lore through the character perspective, is kind of incredible.
Yeah, you get to use the same map you've always been on, but at the same time, it's not just a tower defense like the last one was, right? Where they just made you sit there and shoot Omnics for a while. You played through like a story. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I have to imagine there's going to be something announced at BlizzCon this year relating to some sort of PvE style format for the game.
It has to. I mean, come on. And especially like people like me that make it through my placement matches and then don't play any more competitive after that or any quick play or anything else. I would be on Overwatch all the time if I could play PvE with my friends.
Yeah. I mean, it's that level of good.
Right.
So last time there was only a limited selection of heroes, I think, right? You could be like 76 and I forget whoever else. But are there different people this time, or is it pick or?
So they actually did it like, interesting this time is they split it up into two different formats. They have the like 100% lore mode where you're locked into 4 character choices and everyone's got to pick one of those 4, but then they also added a for fun mode where you can pick any character in the game and go through the exact same mode.
Oh, that's a smart idea.
Well, and there's achievements for doing either mode too, so it's not like they just sort of like abandoned where the other mode.
Because like I definitely felt like in the October one, right? The like Junkenstein one or whatever, where it was like, okay, well, hope you like one of these 4 because get bent.
Yeah,
sure.
And especially for someone that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, if you're playing as a group too, like being able to pick 4 different characters, I mean, yeah, way better than getting stuck with someone who doesn't know how to play Hanzo.
Yeah, or the someone who wants to play healing class but can't aim with Ana.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Well, I brought it up to say, JJ, after this we should play some Overwatch.
Okay. Well, that game sounds like it's pretty cool, so I'd be happy to try it out.
All right, let's get into Hearthstone and send basically every casual listener of this show fleeing for the hills. But I'm assuming there's at least 5 or 10 people that do listen to us talk about Hearthstone for a little while. So, first of all, how did you guys do on legendaries?
Let's see. I think I got. I guess we should say out of how many packs, since that probably makes a difference. I believe I opened something like around 120 or 130 packs at this point. And I think I have 6 or 7 legendaries out of that.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I could open it and count, but that's not worth my time.
Again, we don't prep.
And I did craft some after that, so the number is slightly higher at this point.
I lost count on how many packs I opened and how much dust I actually spent. I had that much fun with the opening days of this expansion.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think the only legendary I don't have that I want is the priest one. And I basically the elemental one, not the quest.
The unit.
Yeah. I went through and I crafted everything.
Whoa.
I definitely started this expansion with over 11,000 dust, and I'm down to 6 now. So I spent quite a bit as well, and it's great.
I opened 95 packs, and I can remember because I haven't had too much time to play. I got 2 legendaries.
Right on that bad luck timer curve.
Uh-huh.
Yep, that's low for sure.
So there's been pretty kind of a hot button issue out in the world of people thinking there are hot button issues, also known as Reddit. That they think that the legendary timer got turned down. Pity timer dot something says no, that's inaccurate. People are just opening less packs this time around. But it sounds like between the two of you guys did pretty well, and I just got the short end of the stick this time around.
No, I think it's safe to say that RNG is a cruel mistress.
Okay.
For sure. There are, even after, the 100 and whatever packs that I opened, there are rares that I opened 0 copies of. There are epics that I have 0 copies of. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a common that I don't have 2 of. It would not surprise me based on how many duplicates of something show up in those packs sometimes.
Well, that was one of the things they mentioned, is that a lot of people thought they were opening way more duplicate rares than normal.
Yeah.
I definitely did not experience that.
Okay. All right.
I would
But
go
I do
on
think
streaks, and then it would kind of stop. You'd see there's 5 of the same rare in a course of 10 packs, and then I would never see that rare again. So,
I think one of the bigger things this expansion suffered from is the fact that it's, I think, the first time that they have ever correctly placed rarity values on cards.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's talk a bit about that. You think that the cards that before may have been more interesting, like purples that should have been legendaries or rares, were correctly assessed this time around? Speak on that.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of epic cards that are where that power level should be. A card that is really, really good to run 2 of in your deck, not legendary status, but significantly better than other cards.
Like Call of the Wild level good.
Correct. Yeah.
Interesting.
That in the past this game hasn't had, where, you get cards like Renounced Darkness, that's an epic.
Yeah, epics used to kind of be just the weird cards that you could build a deck around, maybe.
That's an interesting point, because there are definitely some epics in this set that are like good in the decks that they're for, but not necessarily good overall. Right? Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the cards are tailored more towards, supposed to be in a play style. And I think a lot of that goes with trying to make the quests relevant.
This expansion to me, from the short time I've spent with it, does feel more directed towards deck types. Like they've said, okay, well, beast still isn't a thing, so here's more beast stuff. Priest, lost dragon, so here's a new priest archetype. That sort of stuff. Is that accurate?
They really wanted to make Taunt Warrior a thing. Man,
Wow.
did they want that so bad.
And they did.
And it definitely is a thing. It's the deck I've played the most, I think. I really like that deck, actually.
And I hate you with a passion.
It's so much. It's so awesome, dude. Just like, I yell die insect every time I hit that new hero power. So fun.
And just next time I see you on the ladder, I'll remember to bring a pillow.
Oh, no.
The games are long, that's for sure. Look, I'm not like shooting up the ranks fast here. Let's be clear about that.
Do you feel like we could talk about the set first, or we could talk about where you feel like your games have gone. But since JJ mentioned his deck that he's been playing a lot, I played a few games on the ladder. I tried out a Paladin deck because one of my legendaries was their quest. And so I was trying that out, and I ran into 3 Pirate Warriors in a row. Still, has it changed measurably on the ladder? I've run into that Taunt Warrior deck that you're talking about, and 1 or 2 other strange Hunter decks, but nothing really out of the gate strikes me as like this is a whole new game.
I actually do think it is completely different out there now. And you still see the, Pirate Warrior and stuff, because Pirate Warrior is probably still the best deck in the game.
Yeah, it's
because
pretty close.
If it's
not
aggressive, it can, get in your face, but there are definitely cards to get after it. So it's not as dominant as it was.
And you can include some really cheap, well-statted taunts now that really give Pirate Warrior a tough time.
I mean, what's the card? The 3-mana elemental, the Tar Lurker or whatever?
Oh, the 1/5.
Crazy.
Oh my god, that guy is so good.
He should be in every deck.
He's a common,
basically.
an amazing card, especially if you're seeing a lot of the Pirate Warrior. Just throw 2 of that in there, and you can almost say you win.
It's Sylvanas levels of making your opponent's plays awkward.
So overall, your ladder experience is completely different, JJ? Brian says his is.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty different. I see a lot of those people running that rogue quest, which I am not as personally high on as a lot of the people out there seem to be. I'm sure the deck is very good, but I don't think it's as dominant and destroying as something like Pirate Warrior and the Pirate or aggro Shaman used to be.
I've heard a lot about this rogue deck. Does someone want to give me the skinny on what this is about? Because I haven't actually faced one.
I am afraid that the rogue deck is Grim Patron Warrior level of good.
It doesn't. Maybe because I'm playing Taunt Warrior and it loses to that a lot. But
yes,
I don't think so. The quest, right? So the deck is based around their new quest, Andrew, and the new quest is play 4 copies of a card with the same name, and then all your minions are 5/5s from then on.
Oh boy! So you just kind of panda everything back into your hand?
Yeah, you either panda things or shadow step them, or there's another guy that sends stuff back to your hand or whatever. However you do it, you just play the same named card 4 times, or you play that guy that generates those little flame elementals. I see that one pretty commonly. And then you get this 5-mana spell, which says all your stuff is 5/5 from now on. But it also includes stuff that would be bigger than 5/5. But obviously they don't play any of that in their deck because you just play 1/1s and Stone Tusk Boar and patches and whatnot. So the deck can destroy you if it draws really well, right? Like I have lost to that deck on turn 4. Like it got all the things and all the charge guys and bounced them back and forth all the time, and then all of a sudden
good old prep.
Yep, prep the quest, and then all of a sudden, there's like 3 charge guys and haha from his hand and patches all on the same turn, and I went from 20 health to dead on turn 4. But I've also played against that deck, and they just did nothing for 5 turns, and then they were at 8 health when they completed their quest, and then I hit them in the face with a sword, and they died. So I don't know. It has weaknesses for sure. I don't think it's as dominant of a deck like Aggro Shaman used to be.
I still feel like it's in its infant stages. You had the early Grim Patron Warrior days where people were running high-end curve things in the deck also, and then it certainly got refined down to, topping out at the 5-mana slot. I feel like that deck is going to go through that renaissance and then be scary.
It took 5 or 6 months before Grim Patron was like, oh, uh-oh.
Yeah, for sure. That deck is not... The ones I've played against anyway are definitely not optimized, and I'm sure the optimization will happen over time. But I think that just due to the other decks that are strong and the prevalence of like good aggressive cards, especially in like Hunter, I don't think that deck will, and Pirate Warrior even, will maintain the dominance on the ladder that stuff saw before.
Yeah, I definitely think aggression is its one weakness. But let me tell you a wonderful story about a swashbuckler that, while I was playing Hunter, gave my Rogue Quest friend an Unleash the Hounds.
Those count as 5/5s?
Yeah, have you ever seen 6
dude.
5-mana or 6 5/5s for 3 mana charge at you?
Everything is a 5/5.
Because
the 1/1 Novice Engineer, patches, a card that's not even in your deck yet, all of them are 5/5s. It's pretty ridiculous once the quest gets done, for sure. Unless you're like have a game plan to close out the game in the next several turns after they get that, like they're going to eventually roll you over. It's going to be bad.
So I don't know how much you've actually played against the deck, but I had a deck as a paladin that I was playing against the Rogue Quest, and I thought I was going to lose, but I decided to stay in the game just to see how certain things worked. So, like, can you Eldor Peacekeeper a 5/5 minion, or is its health permanently set to 5, or attack rather? Because I know I had a previous game playing a Shaman deck where I hexed a minion and it turned into a 5/5 frog.
Yep, that happens too.
It's not the effect I wanted. But it turns out you can Eldor Peacekeeper them.
So then, does like equality work?
I don't think I actually got a chance to play equality. But I also played the new Paladin Legendary, the Sunkeeper Tarim, that sets everything to 3/3, and that works also.
Okay, so they're not always 5/5s, but they're probably always 5/5s.
Yeah, the consistency is weird, which is the typical Hearthstone issue.
Yeah, that's the exact right way to describe it.
I tried playing the Paladin quest as a deck just to mess around with the new features and stuff, and the what is it, the card that gives your minions in hand 1/1?
Oh, yeah. The Smuggler's Crate.
Yeah, it doesn't trigger the quest, even though they both say minion.
Yeah, the hand buff mechanic is definitely not included in that for some reason.
I don't understand that. The best buff that they have, basically, you have to take out of your deck because it doesn't do anything.
And it's weirdly specific because the guy that also casts the buff on your guys doesn't count either. So it's like the quest might as well say like your minions on board have to get bonuses.
Let's talk about the set for a minute. Overall, my impression of it, and you guys tell me what you think here, is that it's kind of their Redux set. It's a lot of ideas they've had before that they try it again. So adapt is like taking Discover and adding spare parts to it. Or like, that egg the Death Rattle egg with the 4/4 was too strong, so let's make it a 3-mana egg and give him a 5/5 and see if that's better. Or, that sort of stuff where they're trying to retry ideas, but do them a different way. And again, at the same time, abandon previous ideas like tri-class cards. Like, I remember in Magic sets, they'd try new ideas in each set, but they'd also carry forward parts of, if you were in the season, the 2017 season, the ideas for that block for that year would be carried forward in all the sets, not just abandoned each time a new set comes out. Do you get that feeling, or is it kind of like, well, those tri-class cards stunk, and no, all these are new ideas, adapt as its own thing?
Well, I feel like this expansion was probably the most important expansion Hearthstone ever had, where it made or break the game. I know that I saw some numbers where during the Gadget Zan era, their revenue was down the lowest it's ever been since like beta for the game. So they had to do something to keep people interested. And especially with a new format rolling in and losing sets, this set had to be impactful. So they went with a lot of ideas that had worked in the past, but I think the way they retuned them was listening to fan feedback. So similar to the way Inspire went the way of the dodo, tri-class cards didn't work for the fact that they were too random. You couldn't predict what your opponent just got off of his tri-class card. Like, what did he just discover?
Can you predict a discover mechanic? Even, I mean, that's kind of crazy, right? To try and predict a discover.
Well, it narrows
discovering. Because it's limited to your class and neutrals, right? Or if it's discovering a spell, it's specifically only limited to your class. So that's like not that big of a pool of spells, really.
Yeah. And so I think you had that, and like what you're talking about, some of the ideas they brought back in cards, I think it was things that worked and were good. Like, I think spare parts were good RNG, and Blizzard clearly wants RNG in their game in some form. So Adapt is taking that spare parts RNG and making it something new, but not making it something that people will complain about, oh my god, randomness.
What about adding poisonous finally as a type?
It just sort of seemed like something they were going to need to do eventually if they wanted to continue printing cards that did that. It was like, take up 2 lines of text on a card to basically tell you, hey, it kills them when it hits them. Or never print cards like that because they didn't want to take up the 2 lines of text.
I mean, I'm shocked they didn't add, an elusive card type for can't be targeted by spells or hero powers.
That's like such a good idea, man. I don't know why they didn't do that either. Like, why? It just seemed inevitable at some point.
Inconsistency.
Right? Yeah, but they finally fixed Druid of the Claw after how many years?
Really?
Finally. Yes, they changed the text so that the card is consistent. My God. Hundreds of years later, finally, the Druid of the Claw is not a weird card.
Break down for me, then, where you think this was a success. Like, I know we haven't seen numbers or anything else like that, but, Ryan's saying it's the best set that he can remember playing, basically, by saying he can't remember how much dust and gold he's spent. Where was this a success for you?
I think that I've never seen, I remember when Old Gods came out, right? The last time we sort of had a big shakeup, the first time they rotated cards, the first time they added, the standard format and all this stuff. Like, decks changed quite a bit, right? Because a lot of, powerful sets went away. But the meta that sort of shook out didn't feel like radically different from the way it was before. This time, like, more or less the night after Ungoro hit, every deck I played on the ladder was completely different. Or, well, a few days after, whenever. It was just like none of the people were doing any of the stuff that was done before. Partly because a lot of them were trying out those quests, which may or may not have ended up that great. But definitely it was like night and day with how it was before. And like, yeah, you run into occasional people playing Pirate Warrior, which did not change all that much. But definitely no one was out there playing the like most dominant deck before the Shaman one, right? It's just that deck like disappeared from the ladder completely, which is great as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I think all you need to know to describe why this expansion was successful is 2 words: Purify Priest.
Yeah, what is
I
that,
think
man?
he could potentially be tier 1.
I played against one of those decks. It was crazy. He used Purify. I'm like, oh, well, easy win. And then he kicked my ass.
So when you see cards like Purify and Stone Tusk Boar being involved in the metagame, I think that's good for the game.
Using cards from the basic set that basically get ignored because there are better versions of them.
Cards that never saw play. I mean, that's why I thought Secret Paladin was a great deck, was because you had these cards that had never been used before seeing tier 1 play.
Yeah, and it just took, a card that gave you 6 mana for free to make them good, right?
That's all it took.
Just 6 mana, no big deal. But
I mean, small segue here, though, to your point there. One of my favorite cards of the set, which I'm sure you probably had a talking point, so sorry if I'm skipping ahead, is that new Paladin card, Hydrologist.
Yes.
It's
what a card.
Crazy how strong Paladin secrets are when you don't put them in your deck.
What?
Yeah. Oh man, I've been using that card in Wild in my Secret Paladin deck. It slays. It's a 2/2 Murloc for 2, right? And it's Discover a Secret. That thing is amazing. All of a sudden, as soon as you play it, like I play it on turn 3, you play the secret immediately, and the person is just like befuddled immediately. They have no idea what to do. It's like, oh, well, there's like 80,000 secrets they could be playing. Which one is it? And like, they can't just guess based off of the tier list of how good the secrets are.
And not only that, it fits the situation you always are in. So it's like Getaway Kodo is probably a really, really strong card if you can guarantee what minion it triggers on, but you're never going to run it in your deck actively. But when you can set it up that you Getaway Kodo a Tyrion every single time, it is crazy.
And you can do that. It's awesome. Or like, oh, I'm never the Repentance one, right? The one that resurrects your guy with 1 health. Kind of sucks most of the time because you're resurrecting a 1/1 or you're resurrecting the get down guy, and like that's not awesome. But if you discover it later later in the game, you play it. It's like, oh, hey Tyrion, you're back, or or your Sludge Belcher or whatever, shielded minibot. Like it can be used to like really amazing effect when you can choose what fits the situation.
Now, are you both taking different tacks? It sounds like JJ is kind of hitting up the Wild, but I think Ryan, you're pretty much stuck in Standard, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty much Standard for life kind of guy.
I definitely have only been playing Paladin in Wild because Paladin is no good in Standard, in my opinion. But so that was just my experience with that particular card. Although I do play Wild from time to time.
I actually think Paladin is probably one of the best decks at the moment in Standard.
With or without the quest?
Without the quest.
Absolutely without the quest.
The quest is definitely tier 1 garbage.
The quest is like the bottom level. It might be the worst quest in the set, actually. In fact, it probably is.
I mean, it's the issue is it puts all the power into one minion, and minions always have ways of barring them entry to the face.
Or just straight up removing it regardless of whatever else it has.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But it just in general, like I definitely think the Control Paladin deck is really strong. That I will say that, doing a look through of all the cards before release, and I looked at that Paladin Legendary and I was like, oh, okay, that guy seems good. But like when you see it played against you, though, you don't realize, it's good.
Yeah, did you hear about that new Paladin common they got also, Stonehill Defender?
Haha. I know a lot about that card because it's the MVP of the Taunt Warrior deck as well.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you look through the Paladin list in Standard, what taunt cards they have. It's only 3 of them. And it's that 2/2 Divine Shield guy that gives you health back when he deals damage.
He's a legendary.
Tyrion, and the new legendary.
Yeah. The Paladin is pretty lacking in taunts, but if you just include that Tar Creeper guy and the 1/4 that taunt that discovers another taunt, it turns out that now all of a sudden you have a really defensive deck.
Yeah,
you didn't have to do very much.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I will absolutely put myself on blast for not recognizing how amazing that Paladin legendary guy is. He is really game changing.
I mean, I definitely saw it too and just thought that it was just another Paladin set HP mechanic card and kind of, went past it in the list.
It's like, oh, he absorbed the powers of Keeper of Oldemon and is just slightly bigger. Okay, whatever. And then, no, it's a big deal. He just destroys the opponent. Okay,
but I mean, going back to Andy's point, I think it's an example of the reusing a mechanic but making it better. In terms of it is Yadric the Pure 100%, but just a better mechanic.
Yeah, they took like, oh, hey, see Yadric the Pure? No one really liked him because he didn't really do anything for you. Okay, well, see this Keeper of Oldemon, you can only do it once, and like, it's okay. But then you mix them together, all of a sudden, amazing. Yeah, really, really cool card. I have another legendary that I also did not recognize the power of until later, and that is the Priest one. That it's what's like Lyra the Sun Shaper or something?
Yes.
And it's a 3/5 for 5 mana, I believe, which is not great in the stat department. But every time you cast a spell, just get a random priest spell. It's crazy. Just because you can run so many cheap spells in priest that you don't ever think. I mean, you run them, but you don't ever think about it. Because you're like, oh, I'm power word shielding this guy just so I can draw a card, or I'm using Shadow Word Pain on this guy just so I can get rid of something. But all that adds up, and then you just start getting these random priest cards that may or may not be immediately useful, but they feed your engine of casting spells to cast spells, and then you heal yourself for 3 every time, or you have all these other effects you can do with them. It's like, it snowballs really quick.
Especially combined with the new Radiant Elementals, and you're discounting those free spells you get.
Yep. It's like, what was that? What did that mage deck used to be, where you were using the Sorcerer's Apprentices to get everything for free?
Oh, the Exodia Mage?
Yeah, which also made a comeback thanks to that quest.
Yes.
But, that quest and the spell that duplicates things, right?
Yeah, the Molten Reflections.
Let's talk about their new epic card, which I feel like we've already been through and decided was unfair, and then they reprinted it.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Unstable Portal was a card, you guys.
Okay.
And everybody loved it so much.
This is different from Unstable Portal in a lot of important ways.
It might be better.
You might as well call it Stable Portal?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. So first off, it's a 2. For people that don't know, we're talking about Primordial Glyph here. It's a 2-mana spell. Discover a spell, and the cost is reduced by 2. Right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so the reason it's different is that number one, it doesn't affect, like, it doesn't give you board presence at the same time, like Unstable Portal does, right? So Unstable Portal, you're basically going to get something that will probably be free or very close to free, and then will probably just like run over your opponent with the free value, right? This way, you still have to cast. It's still a spell, so if they don't have something for you to cast the target of the spell on, it's not as great. Yeah, you can use it to the face, but you can use anything to the face with Mage. That's how, for some reason, Mage is built. It's definitely good. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that card isn't amazing. It's amazing. But it's not quite esportsal.
I've had somebody complete their quest on turn 3 thanks to that card.
That's definitely what can happen. I actually think, though, you're missing the oppressive card in Mage that was added.
Am I?
It is another 2-mana card for Mage, but it's actually a common in this case. The Arcanologist.
Arcanologist, yeah.
I think without that card, Primordial Glyph wouldn't see play. Because Arcanologist is mad scientist level of good.
And the only thing that keeps it from being more broken than mad scientist is it forces you to pay for the spell yourself.
Right. But the fact that it lets you 100% enable Medivh's Valet, combined with, Primordial Glyph to grab whatever you want at that point in time, makes Mage... I mean, it single-handedly is bringing Freeze Mage back into the equation.
Despite the fact that JJ said Freeze Mage wouldn't be a thing since they lost the Frost Freeze Shatter thing.
Freeze Mage is 100% a thing at the moment.
It's definitely a thing. I was wrong. I thought that since the old Freeze Mage deck used Ice Lance so much in order to have success, it turns out that I didn't expect for them to print Mad Scientist 2.0 or 1.5, I guess.
In a way, though, this Freeze Mage isn't as bad. It allows you to have counterplay to it in some form if your deck is prepared for it in some manner, since you're not looking at a one-turn kill anymore.
Yeah, it's usually like a setup turn and then the turn where they kill you.
Right, you definitely have to drop an Alex Straza to reduce the HP.
Yeah, so if you're playing and see that turn coming, then there's some stuff you could do potentially to like play Dirty Rat.
Yeah, the only problem.
I want to talk about the secret best card in all of Ungoro, and that card is Dirty Rat from Beat Streets of Gadgetzan.
I mean, yeah, definitely a strong card, seeing a lot of play.
Play it in every deck and watch people playing their quests cry or concede immediately when you Dirty Rat out their combo pieces on turn 2. I've definitely had people concede where you're like, they play it and they're like, whichever the rogue bounce guy is, it just comes down on and they're like, they concede.
Are there any cards you guys see getting the Nerf bat?
It's tough.
I mean, yeah, that's interesting. And they did say their philosophy going forward was supposedly to be nerfing things that were too good more often.
Yeah, they were thinking of being more aggressive, so they didn't have to Hall of Fame cards in the future.
I honestly think the only card on my radar right now is the Rogue Quest.
It's tough, though, because I don't know how you change that card and still have it be playable.
Right, I know. And the only thing I could think of on the top of my head was make everything about it 5, so you have to play 5 copies. But I mean, that's just if the deck is too good.
And it's like, okay, well, if you make it, you can't make the things like 4/4s because then it's not really worth it to go through the hassle rather than just playing the mirror. By the way, there's a miracle version of Rogue that doesn't even use the quest and is also like a really good deck.
Yeah, and I definitely think the Miracle Rogue strength is being masked right now by the fact that everyone wants to try out the new thing.
Yeah, I got my Tukus handed to me pretty hard here by one of those miracle decks where it like generates those little like razor petal whatevers, like little cantrip spells that do 1 damage and then draws like 57 cards and then kills me.
Yeah, the Miracle Rogue version has another example of a card that I thought was just like, whatever, but turns out to be really effective in Sherazan Corpse Flower.
Man.
I didn't think that card would be effective because it seems 4 cards in 1 turn to revive it. I don't think that's that consistent. Turns out it's pretty consistent.
Especially with the like high number of cards that generate, you play this, get a random 1/1 in your hand. Oh, you play this, you get a 1 mana spell. Oh, play this, guy dies, you get 2 1/1s or whatever. And it's just like all these cards just come out of nowhere. Your hand is full constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that card is really good. I definitely was sleeping on that rogue guy, the flower guy.
I think this is a good moment for Ryan to needle us with some more of his pre-prepared dad jokes.
No, they only happen spur of the moment. Nothing is pre-prepared.
Yeah, Andrew, you can't force greatness.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make all 10 of your fans laugh at once.
Ooh.
That's very considerate of him.
If you think they've stuck around this long, you are sorely mistaken. I beat him to it.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to self-deprecating, I have nothing left.
I know.
Andrew, do you have any ointment for that sick burn you just inflicted on yourself?
No, I don't think so. Okay, so what do you want to see going forward to make you believe that Ungoro has staying power and that Hearthstone's headed in the right direction, since we're going to be seeing 260 more cards this year?
I think if they just keep this style of play where cards are actually strong, because you look at something like Grand Tournament, which is probably the weakest set they ever created.
Well, that was a reaction to making all the mech way too strong, right? So,
I mean, in some level, yeah. But I mean, it came off of Blackrock Mountain also, which was incredibly strong. Where it had, like half those cards at least were playable. They just need more of this, more of cards that are actually impactful and make people want to play them.
The thing that I'm both happy for and concerned about is that they are willing to expand the card space in that they're willing to just put out more cards. The thing that I thought was sort of bad, well, it was good from a consumer standpoint, but bad from like a game standpoint, was that there just weren't that many cards available per year due to the adventures only offering you like such a small number of cards. And so they'd really have to push like really broken stuff to get you to play those cards, right? Like, why would you ever want to play Spirit Claws if it was a balanced card, right? And then, oh yeah, they just make it 1 mana and like it's unbelievably insane. And
actually, here's actually what I think is the best solution they could do. I don't know if either of you were actually playing this day, but I think a great example of probably one of the best days in Hearthstone was the day of Volcanosaur. Where for one glorious day, they added the pre-release Ungoro card for the login rewards, which is something they should keep doing also.
Yes.
And it just completely shook up the metagame for one last day. And I think that's something they should do going forward, is having single card releases just on a random whim.
Yeah.
Like trickle feed stuff for like the next set?
Not even related to the set, just something, hey, we had a cool idea for a neutral card, have at it.
Yeah, I did not get to play that day, but I definitely saw some crazy stuff where people were like, oh, it turns out you include this volcano guy and you can still give him stealth and he can get stealth. And oh my God, like Volcanosaur one shots. How do you stop it?
I mean, yeah, it was hilarious. Beast Druid became tier 1 for one day. It just, you had shenanigans
I can copy this guy
everywhere.
all of a sudden, and he's amazing. Yeah, it's really, that's the thing that I am concerned about with regards to them being finally printing more cards, is that now the cost of staying in the game is going to go up in terms of either, time spent in gold grinded or, actual monetary input to keep up with the card count.
I mean, that's definitely going to be something happening this year.
Yeah, so hopefully they, continue with the login rewards or something on that nature, because it really felt like fun to log in and be like, hey, here's 30 dust for like no reason.
Yeah, and the thing was the rewards weren't even that great.
Yeah, it wasn't like you got like one pack of an old set every so often, or like here's 20 gold or here's 50 gold. It's just like, congratulations for playing a really bad arena that you didn't play. So, it was a cool. It made you want to play a little bit more than I think I might have otherwise wanted to at that time.
Which I think is the most important thing, is it doesn't matter, what skill level you're actually at or if you're pushing legend or not. You should want to be feeling like you're having fun, even while losing, which is sometimes very, very difficult to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Andrew, I really feel for you, man, but you got to give up the paladins, dude. That quest is not going to help you have a good time.
I had to win 5 games as paladin. I only had that quest as a legendary. I was kind of just like, well, we'll try it.
I mean, that's why you would just wait for the Tavern Brawl to come around, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've listened to enough of this show, but I hate Tavern Brawl. I hate it.
It's just free packs, man. Just log in once. Easy, done.
I know. I only play it once.
There are some that are really fun and are fun to play, or if they're really good for completing quests, but in general, I only play them once.
Every minute that I sat playing Tavern Brawl, I could think about playing the Overwatch Uprising, and I would hate myself for spending any more time.
Did you see one of the data mined Tavern Brawls coming up?
No.
It is basically both players spin a wheel, and it determines what Tavern Brawl you are playing, and it is separate from each other.
Oh, man.
So one person could have web spinners, the other person could have, some other random, unstable portal one.
No.
You know what? I think that's fine. I think it's fun that they make like a clown fiesta mode where it's just like, here you go. We're going to throw all the dumb stuff that we can do into one thing. And like people that want to play the dumbest possible stuff could just go over here and just have the dumbest things happen. And they're all over there.
I just dislike that sometimes they make these decisions that make them take 30, 40, 50 minutes to win your first game through no fault of your own.
They are extremely random. But there's no penalty for conceding either. So, like, that is definitely something I occur in Tavern Brawls. Like, if I think I am just completely hosed or I don't like where this is going, I just concede and start over. There's no penalty whatsoever.
All right, you're gonna cheer me up now. We're gonna switch gears
Oh yeah, we
The
shifting
fact-
gears.
Yeah, we're shifting into reverse at 65 on the freeway because
Oh,
you need to tell Ryan and I about Fast and Furious 8 because I don't know too much about where this next expansion is headed, but I do know that the Fast and Furious franchise is headed in a glorious direction of 20 more movies.
yeah. I could just go ahead and say from the opening box office, Andrew, they're making more of them. It's happening, you guys. We're gonna have these movies until Vin Diesel literally dies. So, yeah, the box office numbers were amazing. I think it made $500 million worldwide. Something like 100 million domestic or something. So numbers not that amazing here, but worldwide it just is killing it. And Andrew and Ryan, how do you guys feel about family?
Nothing is more important than family.
That Ryan has the exact correct answer. Nothing is more important than family. And the eighth Fast and Furious movie called The Fate of the Furious. Get it? Fate, F8. No?
I appreciate it 100%.
All right. At least someone appreciates their dumb marketing. It is the same movies that you've seen before, but they just took all the knobs and turned them up another notch. So
I thought they ran out of notches a long time ago.
Oh, that's what you thought. But then they added Jason Statham in the last one. And now there's another notch. You can turn this one up to 11 now. And now they added Charlize Theron, and so there's another notch. And it is just some of the amount of hamming it up that goes on in this movie it's frankly worrisome, because what will other movies do that don't have this many people to ham up the screen at the same time? I love these movies, and we've talked about how much I love them on this show before, and this is another one of those movies. And if you love them, this one is really good.
It's kind of like how I felt when Pokemon Go came out and everyone was suddenly became a Pokemon fan. It's kind of the same way with the Fast and the Furious franchise with me, where I watched, the first two, but I didn't tell anyone I watched the first two. But now everyone's a fan of the franchise, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm the cool kid again. I'm relevant.
Except that Pokemon Go, let's all agree on this podcast that you shouldn't playing Pokemon Go.
Right, but it's just, using it as an example. You definitely shouldn't be paying money for that.
No, the time for Pokemon has passed. But if you like those movies, this is for you. If you don't like those movies, or I wonder what it would be like for someone who has never seen any of these movies to walk in and see this one. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that just blows up, and if you just turn your brain off, I guess you would probably have an okay time. But it would probably be a little confusing, like why anyone cares. It feels like a lot, and this is true for all of these movies, really, past the fourth one or something. The reason to care is because you've built up a history with the characters, right? And now, if you didn't have that history, I wonder if these movies would be as awesome as they are.
Ryan, you've seen them all?
Besides the latest.
Okay. Top two. What are your top two?
Well, we can safely say the bottom one is Tokyo Drift.
Wrong.
No questions asked.
Tokyo Drift is great.
Oh, okay. We can have an hour discussion on why you're wrong.
We can definitely say the second one is an awful, awful, awful movie.
That is true. The Paul Walker solo film. I think the most recent one, I guess Fast 7, was amazing just for the car jump scene.
Yes. The problem I have with 7 is that the fact that Paul Walker died in the middle of shooting is obvious when you pay attention to a lot of the action scenes that Paul Walker is in, where it's
yes.
Why is his face covered in shadow all the time? Or why are there only 3 cuts in this whole scene?
Definitely makes things awkward.
Yeah, the movie suffers for the fact that they wanted to use every bit of footage that they had of him, and they weren't going to get any more, and they didn't want to change the story. So some weird stuff happens in that movie. But the ending still probably makes me cry. Rip Paul Walker too soon. I definitely think my favorite one is Fast 5, though.
Is that the one with the bank robbery?
Yes. Yeah, the bank robbery.
That's the one where they added The Rock, right?
correct. That is the first appearance of The Rock.
Okay, that's my number one.
Yes, I think that is a very popular and correct opinion.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And I think the sixth one is pretty good. The seventh one is not as good as the sixth or the fifth ones. And then the other ones are all kind of eh.
Where does this one fit in there?
I think I would say I like this one better than the seventh one, but not as good as the sixth or fifth ones. It's tough coming right off it because, like, you know, the like dumb broness of Paul Walker is replaced with something else, and I don't know how it works yet. Maybe I need to see it again.
You got to see how the family comes back together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, spoiler alert: the like movie ends, and you know, Dom's not dead. So
I'm shocked.
I think you're probably the first person to utter, "I think I need to see it again."
Of this movie, I don't think that's true.
For any Fast movie, I don't think anyone says they need to see it again.
Oh no, that's not true at all.
You got to see them multiple times. They just are
did
more
you see,
hilarious.
Though, speaking to your point, Andrew, about how you thought it was the same thing over and over again, did you actually see the Japanese titles for these movies?
No.
Oh my god, they're so good. Why aren't they called that here?
They like loosely translate to like this latest one is called like Drift Mission Ice Episode or something like that.
Nice.
I think the sixth one is like Air Raid, or because there's a scene where they like drop their cars out of planes or something.
Yeah, it's like called like Air Mission
Raid,
or something.
Air Mission. It's like,
it's hilarious.
Oh man,
everything's better in Japan.
It sort of is,
except for Tokyo Drift.
Yes, except for Tokyo Drift.
Tokyo Drift isn't better in Japan.
All right. Well, I think we've discovered here today that we need to come up with a panel and do a bonus episode once everyone's seen episode Fate of the Furious, and we have a whole Fast and Furious bonus episode.
Yeah, I'll probably have to die on the hill of Tokyo Drift, but I'll get outvoted by any panel. I'm sure it's not well liked.
That's a panel, man. You can try and make your case. That's all I'm saying.
You can try.
Where can people stay up on the news, JJ, of when this panel may happen, if ever?
Well, it would most likely be announced on our website, which is weweregamers.com. If they wanted to inform us about our correct or incorrect opinions on the panel, it would be at podcast@weweregamers.com, or you can send other feedback there. We're always listening.
Since everyone agreed with our excellent coverage of the Angoro expansion, they should go leave Ryan and JJ a 5-star review, and me probably 4.5, since I didn't have as much knowledge. On iTunes and wherever else you can actually rate things. I don't even know where you can rate things anymore.
Everywhere. iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, everything has a button you can click. Click on that button.